They said her profession was lowly. Linda Reed never called it work. She called it sewing, the way someone talks about a hobby instead of a livelihood. Before I continue, kindly subscribe to the channel, like the video and tell me where you're watching from today. To her, Emma Reed was not a designer, not a professional, not a woman who paid her own rent with skill and discipline. She was just the daughter who stitched things together. And Chloe, beautiful, polished, endlessly confident Chloe, had grown up believing that Emma's labor belonged to her by default. The Miss 8 pageant was coming, and Chloe needed a gown that would turn heads and rewrite her history of near wins. A gown worthy of television, cameras, and applause. Emma stood alone in her studio that afternoon, silk chiffon stretched across her work table, finishing a delicate hem by hand. At exactly 2 o'clock, the bell above the door chimed. She didn't look up. She already knew. The sharp scent of expensive perfume filled the room before the heels hit the floor. Linda Reed had arrived, right on time, exactly as she always did when she wanted something. "Emma, darling," Linda said brightly, her voice coated in warmth that never reached her eyes. Emma set down her needle with care and finally looked up. Her mother stood in the doorway in a crisp white blazer and designer jeans that cost more than Emma's monthly utilities. Beside her was Chloe, 23 and flawless, wearing athleisure like it belonged on a runway. Her hair fell in soft, perfect waves, the kind money maintained effortlessly. They both paused, surveying the studio. The narrow room, crowded with fabric bolts, dress forms worn smooth by time, and a sewing machine that wheezed when pushed too hard. Chloe's nose wrinkled. "It's small," she said. Emma didn't respond. Linda slid a glossy fashion magazine onto the only clear corner of the table. "Look at this," she said, tapping the cover. Emma leaned forward despite herself. The gown was breathtaking, emerald green, structured and fluid at once, covered in intricate beadwork. "This," Linda continued, "is the level Chloe deserves for the pageant." She smiled softly. "Not a copy. Just something equally magnificent. As a gift." A gift. Not a commission. Not paid work. A gift. Emma felt the word settle heavily in her chest. "I have 3 paying clients," she said evenly. "Deadlines this week." Chloe sighed and perched on the work table, inches from a client's silk dress. "You can't be serious," she said. "Those rags can wait." The word landed hard. "This is my future," Chloe added, lips forming a practiced pout. "You should feel honored." Linda nodded approvingly. "Exposure," she said. "People will ask who made the dress." Emma's fingers curled at her sides. Her mind slipped backward without permission. 11 years earlier. A bank statement. A balance of 0. A college fund emptied without warning. She saw herself at 18, accepted into Eastbridge Institute of Design, dreams sharp and bright. She remembered confronting her mother in the kitchen, Chloe practicing her walk in cheap heels. Linda's calm voice. "I know what's best." Emma had believed her. She always had. The memory snapped away as Linda's voice pulled her back. "Are you feeling all right, sweetie?" Emma swallowed. "I need 2 days," she said. "Finish my orders first." Linda's face lit up. "Of course." Chloe smiled, triumphant. "I knew you'd come through." They left wrapped in perfume and certainty. Emma's studio felt smaller once the door closed. She stared at the magazine, then at her phone. A message from Mrs. Collins blinked on the screen, excited about a prom dress pickup. Emma worked until her hands burned. She finished every paying order in 48 hours, sleeping in fragments, fueled by cold coffee and stubborn resolve. When Linda and Chloe returned, Emma was ready. Measurements were taken. Demands piled up. Lower neckline. Tighter waist. Dramatic back. Emma wrote everything down in the same battered notebook she'd used since high school. At one point, she stepped out to retrieve another notebook from her car. When she returned, the studio door was ajar. Chloe's voice floated down the stairwell, sharp and petulant. "I hate this place." Linda laughed softly. "No one has to know. We'll say the dress is from an anonymous French designer." Chloe snorted. "Imagine if people knew Emma made it." Linda's reply was quieter. Colder. "She's useful. That's why I raised her that way." Emma stood frozen. Something inside her broke completely. She walked back in with a smile that felt foreign on her face. The rest of the visit reminded her of a play she'd memoized long ago. She nodded. She agreed. She promised perfection. After they left, Emma locked the door and called Daniel Brooks. He listened. He didn't interrupt. When she finished, he was silent for a long moment. You know they are wrong, he said finally. Emma stared at the dress form in the corner. I'm done, she said. Daniel hesitated, then told her about a specialized soluble thread used in industrial applications. Heat, moisture, structural failure. Safe, obscure, precise. A week later, he placed the spool in her hand. Emma didn't sleep that night. She designed the most beautiful gown she had ever imagined. She spent her savings on the finest materials. Every seam was intentional. Every stress point calculated. Linda praised her devotion. Chloe admired herself in the mirror. No one noticed the quiet shift in Emma's eyes. By the time the emerald gown was finished, Emma felt nothing at all. Only clarity. Pageant night arrived heavy with heat and noise. Backstage was a maze of bright lights, curling irons, hissing sprays, and anxious movement. Emma stood near the wardrobe racks, dressed in black, blending into the edges the way she always had. Chloe sat in front of a mirror, surrounded by assistants, her hair sculpted into place, makeup flawless. When Emma unzipped the garment bag, conversation stalled. The emerald gown caught the light instantly. Heads turned. A few contestants openly stared. Chloe's smile sharpened. About time, she said. Emma helped her step into the dress, fastening the hidden hooks, tightening the internal corset with steady hands. The fabric settled perfectly, sculpted and gleaming. Emma leaned in slightly. It's delicate, she said calmly. Move carefully. Chloe met her eyes in the mirror. Don't tell me how to shine, she whispered. Emma stepped back. Linda appeared immediately, assessing everything with critical focus. She looks extraordinary, she said. A woman with a press badge approached, camera already rolling. Chloe straightened, smile snapping into place. Emma slipped farther into the shadows as the reporter asked about the dress. It's a gift, Chloe said smoothly. From an anonymous designer in Paris. Linda nodded along, radiant with pride. Emma felt nothing as the lie floated easily into the air. The reporter gushed about craftsmanship, about mystery, about elegance. Chloe touched the beading like it was sacred. Emma watched from behind a rack of costumes, phone silent in her hand. Daniel had warned her not to overthink the timing. Heat, moisture, pressure. Backstage had all three. Chloe was already flushed, dabbing her collarbone discreetly when she thought no one noticed. A stage manager moved through the contestants, calling out times. Middle group. 15 minutes. Chloe inhaled sharply. Linda intercepted her water bottle. Not now, she said. Lipstick. Chloe nodded, swallowing nerves. The dress glittered brighter under the lights, crystals scattering reflections across the walls. Several assistants whispered. Emma checked her watch. The numbers moved slowly. When the lights dimmed slightly and the muffled applause from the opening group rolled backstage, Emma shifted closer to the curtain. Her heart beat hard, but her hands were steady. She watched Chloe square her shoulders, lift her chin, and step into position. Everything was unfolding exactly as planned. Contestant number 17, the announcer's voice boomed. Chloe stepped onto the stage and the crowd reacted instantly. Applause surged, loud and hungry. Emma peeked through the gap in the curtain. Under the spotlights, the gown came alive. The emerald silk glowed. The crystals ignited, flashing with every movement. Chloe moved confidently, every step practiced, every turn designed to show the dress at its best. The audience loved it. Emma watched sweat bead along Chloe's shoulders, watched the way the bodice pulled under the weight of embellishment. Minutes passed. Chloe arched into a dramatic pose. That was when Emma saw the shift. Subtle, almost elegant. One shoulder seam released. The fabric slid, transforming the silhouette. The crowd gasped, then erupted again, louder. It's intentional, someone shouted. A reveal. Chloe froze for half a breath, panic flickering behind her eyes, then forced herself to keep moving. Cameras zoomed in. Judges leaned forward. Emma pressed her knuckles to her lips to stay silent. The heat intensified. The music swelled. Chloe spun again. The remaining seams surrendered together. The bodice collapsed cleanly, slipping down in a cascade of emerald silk. Chloe screamed. The gown pooled at her feet, stunning even in ruin. Beneath it, beige shapewear caught the full glare of the lights. The silence that followed was sharp and complete. Then chaos. Stagehands rushed forward. Someone yelled to cut the music. Phones flashed everywhere. Chloe dropped to one knee, scrambling for fabric that no longer obeyed her. Emma's eyes moved automatically to the front row. Linda sat rigid, face drained of color, mouth open but soundless. The moment stretched, then fractured into noise, laughter, gasps, shouting. Emma turned away before the curtain closed fully. She walked down the corridor without hurrying, heart still pounding but mind eerily clear. Outside, the night air felt cool against her skin. She didn't look back. She drove home through empty streets and slept deeply for the first time in months. The knock came the next morning. Emma opened her studio door in pajamas, coffee in hand. A woman in a tailored gray suit stood in the hallway. "Emma Reed?" she asked. "My name is Laura Kent. I represent Victor Hale." 20 minutes later, Emma sat in the back of a town car heading downtown. Hale's hotel suite overlooked the city like it owned it. Victor Hale stood by the window, examining the ruined gown laid carefully across a table. He turned as Emma entered. "You designed this," he said, not asking. He traced the seams, the stress points, the construction. "Extraordinary control," he continued. "You calculated failure." Emma waited. "I'm offering you a position," Hale said. "Senior design assistant. Full support. Education included." The words didn't land all at once. Emma sat down slowly. "Why?" she asked. Hale smiled faintly. "Because talent without fear is rare." He left her with a card in 48 hours. When Emma returned to her studio, her phone buzzed. "Daniel, it worked." Emma looked at the empty dress form and finally allowed herself to breathe. The aftermath spread faster than Emma expected. By midday, clips of the collapse were everywhere. Cropped, slowed down, looped endlessly. Headlines avoided names at first, favoring phrases like unexpected runway failure and pageant shock. Chloe posted a tearful video claiming deception by an unnamed designer. The comments turned vicious within minutes. Emma watched without reacting, phone face down beside her coffee. When Linda called, Emma let it ring until the screen went dark. The studio felt different now, quieter, less oppressive. That afternoon, Emma called Victor Hale and accepted the offer. Within days, paperwork arrived. A salary number that made her blink. Tuition coverage. A relocation timeline. Daniel stopped by that evening with takeout and cheap wine. "You all right?" he asked. Emma nodded. She was. Not euphoric. Not shaken. Just steady. For the first time, the future felt structured instead of improvised. She packed her notebooks, labeled fabric samples, and closed the studio for the last time without ceremony. No goodbye post. No announcement. Just forward motion. Hale Atelier moved fast. Emma relocated within the week, stepping into studios that smelled of clean fabric and ambition instead of dust and overtime. She worked under senior designers, absorbing rhythm and process, learning where creativity met constraint. Victor reviewed her work personally, offering precise, unsentimental feedback. Again, he'd say, "Better." She took classes at night, filled sketchbooks until her wrists ached, and learned to trust her instincts without apology. The pageant scandal faded into meme culture, then background noise. Chloe's accounts went quiet. Linda disappeared from public view entirely. Emma noticed only in passing. Her days were full now. One afternoon, Victor asked her to assist on a capsule collection. A real one. 6 pieces. Her ideas. Her execution. Emma said yes without hesitation. She worked late, refining silhouettes, choosing fabrics that moved with intent. Nothing emerald. She never touched that color again. The showcase was small, private, precise. Buyers. Editors. People who mattered because they understood construction, not spectacle. Backstage, Emma checked hems and closures with calm efficiency. The lights dimmed. Music rose. The first model stepped forward. Emma watched each piece walk, breathe, settle. No tricks. No deception. Just design doing its job. Applause came quietly at first, then built. When it ended, someone tugged her sleeve. "You're supposed to bow." She stepped out, blinking under the lights. Faces blurred. Applause felt real. Victor nodded once from the front row. Daniel grinned from the side, hands raised in silent celebration. Emma bowed and stepped back, heart steady. Later, contracts were discussed. Orders placed. Her name spoken carefully, with interest. That night, she walked home alone through cool streets, city lights reflecting in shop windows. She caught her reflection once and barely recognized the woman looking back. A year passed without interruption. Emma worked, learned, refined. Her role expanded, her confidence settling into something steady and functional. Victor offered her a longer-term contract, and she signed it without discussion. The studio had become familiar, demanding, precise, and felt like home. One afternoon, Emma archived old notebooks, keeping them not out of sentiment but reference. She closed the box and returned to her table, already focused on the next piece waiting to be finished. Late one evening, Emma finished a final fitting and shut off the studio lights. The city hummed outside, distant and constant. She stood for a moment, hands resting on a dress form, fabric draped and waiting. No audience. No cameras. Just work. She gathered her things and left, locking the door behind her. Tomorrow would come, demanding and precise, and she would meet it on her own terms. The following months unfolded with disciplined momentum. Emma's days settled into a precise rhythm. Early mornings in the atelier, fittings led back to back, evenings spent refining sketches or studying construction notes left by senior designers. Victor Hale remained demanding but consistent. He corrected without cruelty and praised without excess. "You think structurally," he told her once, adjusting a sleeve she had drafted. "That matters more than flair." Emma absorbed everything. She learned how collections were paced, how budgets shaped creativity, how decisions were made quietly long before they appeared on runways. Her name appeared on internal briefs, then on garment tags, small at first, then more confidently placed. Outside the atelier, the noise of the pageant scandal dissolved into obscurity. New headlines replaced old ones. Emma noticed only because Daniel occasionally sent her a screenshot with a single word attached: history. She never replied to those messages. She was busy building something that required full attention. One afternoon, Victor asked her to stay late. He spread 6 sketches across a long table. "I want these developed," he said. "Fully." Emma studied them. They were raw concepts, unfinished, demanding interpretation. "You'll lead the execution," Victor added. "I'll oversee." It wasn't framed as a reward. It was work. Emma nodded and took the sketches. She stayed until midnight that night, translating lines into fabric choices, calculating weight and movement, anticipating stress points without thinking about why she knew how. Over the next weeks, the pieces took form. Each garment balanced strength and restraint. Buyers responded quietly but decisively. Orders followed. Victor said nothing beyond a nod. Emma understood that nod carried weight. Daniel visited once, standing awkwardly near racks of garments that cost more than his car. "Still weird seeing you here," he said. Emma smiled faintly. "It's just work." He laughed. "That's how I know you're serious." They had dinner nearby, talked about materials, projects, nothing else. The past didn't come up. It didn't need to. When Daniel left, Emma returned to the studio and finished a seam she'd been avoiding. Precision calmed her. The silence helped her think. She no longer worked to prove anything. She worked because the work demanded it. Late autumn brought another internal review. Victor circled one piece slowly, hands behind his back. "You've stabilized," he said. "Now push." Emma revised without argument. She removed elements she once would have defended. She added restraint where excess had tempted her. The final result was cleaner, stronger. When the piece appeared in a trade publication weeks later, her name appeared in full beneath the image. No explanation. No backstory. Just credit. Emma clipped the page and placed it in a folder. She didn't share it. On a quiet night, Emma walked past a storefront window and paused. The reflection looking back at her was composed and deliberate. She turned away and continued down the street, hands in her coat pockets, already thinking about the work waiting on her table. Winter arrived quietly. Emma's work continued without interruption. She moved through fittings, revisions, and deadlines with the calm assurance of someone who knew her place. One afternoon, Victor handed her a new contract, longer term, broader scope. She reviewed it carefully and signed without hesitation. No ceremony followed. No announcement. Just continuation. That evening, Emma returned to her apartment, cooked a simple meal, and laid out sketches for the next collection. Burgundy, slate, deep navy. Shapes that held structure without rigidity. She worked until midnight, not from pressure, but from clarity. The work no longer felt like survival. It felt like alignment. Spring brought her first solo credit within the atelier. A small run. Limited release. Emma attended the internal presentation, standing near the back while buyers examined the garments. She listened, took notes, adjusted silently. When it ended, Victor stopped beside her. "This holds," he said. "Nothing more." That night, Emma walked home through streets softened by warm air and city light. She passed cafes, storefronts, people laughing without urgency. For a moment, she slowed. Not to reflect. Just to register where she was. Then she kept walking. Later, alone in the studio, Emma shut down the lights one by one. The room settled into stillness. Fabric rested where she left it. Tools lay in deliberate order. She stood briefly at the center of the space, hands at her sides, breathing evenly. Tomorrow would require decisions, discipline, and precision. She welcomed that. Emma turned off the final light, locked the door, and walked away, without looking back, without needing to. Thank you for watching till the end. If you were in Emma's place, would you have walked away the same way, or handled it differently? Tell me in the comments what moment changed everything for you in this story. Please don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and tell me where you're watching from.